Chair, members.
Agenda item 3 is stakeholder goals for economic development in California. We've got 4 speakers. Mr. Gubasa Hoda, Executive Director of the California Association for Local Economic Development; Joel Ayala, Executive Director of the California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce; Malachi Sekuamen, President and CEO of the California Urban Partnership; Tim Cali, President and CEO of Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation. Welcome, and I will ask our panelists to come forward so that we can begin agenda item 3. In this next panel, we will hear from 4 stakeholder groups, including the California Association of Local Economic Development, California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, the Urban Partnership, and Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation. We have asked these groups here to help the committee identify current economic needs and resources. This information will help the committee better understand how the state resources, including GOBEZ, fit within this framework. I'm going to ask that each of our panelists begin by briefly introducing themselves and their organization, as well as identifying 2 strengths to California's economy. Let us begin with Ms. Sahota, Executive Director of the California Association for Economic Development. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Tony, and all the Assembly members on the committee for including us and giving me the chance to talk a little bit about our organization and our practitioners that are working in economic development. So this is our presentation. I'm going to go through it quickly because I want to be respectful of your time, but I look forward to answering any questions you have at the end. So I'm going to talk about who we are, economic development from a practitioner's perspective, and then the 2 strengths that I see in the California economy. CALID as an association has been around since 1980. We have over 750 members. Those are primarily practitioners. So they're city and county staff that are working on economic development issues, nonprofit organizations, some of whom you see here, education and training agencies like the community colleges, other partners, UCs, CSUs, chambers, private sector consultants, usually ones that are working with jurisdictions to help them with their economic development issues. And some of our members are state and federal agencies. GOBEZ is a member, EDA and USDA are all CALID members and partners that we work with. Our mission, the reason we were created, is to help those members in delivering economic development services to their businesses and to their communities. So under that mission, a lot of what we do, aside from helping them network and share model practices, is really education. I'm glad the conversation on economic development, the definition piece came up, because we define it broadly as economic development is the creation of wealth in which community benefits are created. More recently, what we've seen, that last piece gets left off. It's not just business support for the sake of supporting business. It's really about we want to support businesses that are consistent with our community's fabric because we want wealth creation not just for the residents, but for the jurisdictions, so the jurisdictions can then afford to pay for the benefits that the residents require. A strong economic development program should support community benefits and grow the local economy. And again, we've talked about this already, so I'm not going to belabor the point. Economic development is different across communities. We talked more about it being different across states, but even neighboring communities have different goals that they want to achieve. So to use a standard set of measures for economic development is very difficult if you're not tapped into what is the local vision. What is each community trying to accomplish? I'm not going to talk about this because I want to be mindful of time. 2 economic strengths. Culture of creation, and if you'll forgive me, I'm going to read this because I don't want to misquote it. In late 2014, SSTI analyzed the data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics to determine the business survival rate by state. California was the clear leader by far, not only in terms of business starts, with nearly 80,000 new businesses in 2007, but the 6-year survival rate through the Great Recession years for California businesses was 71%. The next best state was Massachusetts. California is the only state to have a 10-year survival rate above 50%. Those are powerful numbers. We have a culture of creation here. That's a strength for our economy. And I know that not just from statistics, but anecdotally, talking to other state associations, my counterparts, they have this information as well. We talk about, what are we working on? What's important in your state? Some states will be really candid and say business attraction is what's important to us. Some states know that they're struggling to keep what they have, and it's business retention. California understands those pieces, but what I think we get better than other states is entrepreneurship. So culture of creation. The other strength that I think we have are local economic developers. And again, I'm so pleased that you asked me to be part of this panel and to talk, because what we see is hundreds of practitioners, boots on the ground people that are working every day to help grow local economies by helping their businesses and by helping their communities as well. What oftentimes we see, because economic development is so political, you'll have the policy conversation, but the practitioners are not included. So you do have this huge network of economic developers that are professionals, practitioners, that talk about ways to collaborate. And that conversation is a very practical conversation. It's not the policy conversation that you might have, but it's a huge strength to the state. So when we talk about GoBiz's ability to reach all the businesses, they might not have that ability, but they do have the ability to tap into these types of networks and leverage that support. And the final piece that I want to leave you with, I'm not going to go too much into detail with these, is in relation back to the definition on economic development. Economic development is more than a jobs program, and I think that's important. That, again, got lost in this conversation of the economy's taking a downturn. How do we impact jobs? A good economic development program is an investment in a community's future. It's really looking at the vision and what you want. It's more than business attraction. Business attraction gets a lot of press, but economic development is more than that. It's more than a business support group. We're not just there to support business for the sake of supporting business. It's strategic, it's thoughtful, it's about supporting a community's vision so that you can raise the quality of life for everyone. So thank you again for including me. That's about us and our organization.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think that definition that highlights the multiplying effects, right, of economic development, and really looking at it from a perspective of a community as a whole, and not just, as you said, assisting business. So thank you. We'll go on to our next speaker, Malachi Sekou Amen, President and CEO of the California Urban Partnership. I know he's participated in other hearings with us before, and so I just want to welcome you again and thank you for participating. So you may begin.
Mr. Chairman and members, thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you for your leadership and advocating on behalf of those who are working to improve our California's economy. The California Urban Partnership has a simple mission, and that is to build economic security in low-income communities and communities of color. The way we do that is by developing tools. We advocate for policy, and we also build program partnerships amongst community-based organizations across the state. Some of those are in the room, such as the California Asian, Hispanic, and Black Chambers of Commerce, the Urban Leagues. We've also worked with Telecu and many other faith-based community organizations across the state. So we really see ourselves as representing the millions of low-income families across the state who just don't know what they don't know how to engage in this vast, complex system of economic development in California. So specifically in terms of the tools, our tools, such as our AriseNow.com platform, is about engaging communities of color, certainly informing them, and then having a longitudinal data system so that we can, over time, measure the economic well-being of communities of color in particular. In terms of policy advocacy, our work is focused on 5 strategic goals. Those goals include job and wealth creation, developing California's science and technology based workforce, healthy communities, and then certainly engaging communities. And on the program partnership side, we are focused on building collaboration amongst community-based organizations across the state so that there is a triple bottom line type of outcome in the collaboration for strengthening community-based programs, for building and growing businesses, and then also advocating for policies that will fill the gap of what we need. And I don't want to extend this beyond, but I think we have 2 minutes to just introduce, and then you're going to get into the questions. Okay, well, I'll save the rest for later.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Mr. Ayala. He's the executive director of the California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Joel Ayala, President and CEO of the California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce. I bring a unique perspective in that I was part of the original Go Ed, Go Biz, started under executive order, transitioned to Go Biz, as well as serving as the president and CEO for multiple years at the California and the local Hispanic Chambers of Commerce. We're about 40 years old. We have chambers throughout the state, 40 to 50 at any given time, managing a successful network designed to strengthen and grow local economies and to help those businesses that are interested in serving the Hispanic business community and the local community as a whole. I'm thankful for the panel that I'm here with because they represent kind of a solid brain trust of what you're trying to accomplish. Since I only have a minute left, I would like to just speak to a little bit of some of what was addressed earlier as to what can and cannot be done at the GoBiz side. Because I don't know if we'll get to it during the questions. But GoBiz has to be larger than its sum of its parts. It needs to leverage its networks. It needs to work with individual entities and networks that are here, represented here, with our 50 or so chambers and the 40-plus chambers of the Asian Chamber and the Black chambers, not to mention the small business development centers, on and on and on, that the resources are there, the networks are there. As far as allocation dollars and budget, the money is there also. It's just where are we putting it? We're putting $400 million into workforce development. We're putting $100 million into employment training panel. We're putting $60 million into travel and tourism. And yet we put $2 million into small business. That's where and why I'm here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Our fourth panelist, Mr. Tim Kelly, the president of the Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Garcia. Honorable members, Tony Simons, Tim Kelly. I'm the President and CEO of the Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation. I'm also the current chair of the Imperial County Workforce Development Board. I am a board member of California Association of Local Economic Development and the immediate past chair of Team California, California's statewide marketing organization. Currently, California is the 8th largest economy. I remember when I was in college, it was the 5th largest economy. And the only way we're going to get back there is by either growing the California economy or hope that some other economies fail. I'd really grow our economy, and that's why we're here. The strength of California, I'd have to say, is our diversity. It's a diversity of culture. It's a diversity of geography. It's a diversity of economy. It's something that allows us to be resilient. It's also something that allows us to spur entrepreneurship. And that's one of the things that I think that we really need to focus on and we really need to celebrate as we market our regions and market our state outwardly. Many of the challenges that I think that we have in California can be overcome not by putting more money into the system, but really by looking at the opportunities that are there and leveraging the resources, as Mr. Ayala said. And as we've seen Go Ed and Go Biz increase in size, I think that we're missing the opportunity of really working with organizations like CalEd, like Team California in our marketing, and with the SBDCs and really engaging with them and helping to expand that. It was mentioned that one of the roles of Go Biz is the marketing, but not marketing outside the state. It's marketing in the state. And that's where we need help. And I will tell you that from my perspective with Team California, as we're working both internationally and nationally across the United States, there's no competition. What I mean there is California is not competing. We are overfunded by other states. We're overfunded by government. And I think we're doing our best as a privately financed organization as Team California, and we really do need the support of the state in helping us to market. I think that one thing we bring to the table is we report back to Go Biz on what the challenges are and what people are saying about California. It's not what other states are saying about us, it's what businesses are saying. Why are businesses not coming here? I live in a region that is the only county that borders another county, another state, and another country. So we know what competition is, and we've been successful. But it's been successful because of hard work. We always market ourselves as California first, and we market ourselves as a region that has an opportunity for growth, and we market our region as a region that's surrounded by a great opportunity because of the market that surrounds us. 35 million people within 3 million people, 3.5 hours. And it's not only California, it's also national with Mexico. And so we are the gateway to Latin America. We are an ideal location for Asia. And what we're seeing is the location for companies that are in the south or in the eastern part of the United States that are looking to expand their operations into the western part of the United States. We need to be prepared for that, and we need to have a solid team working together and able to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly, and for your work out in Imperial County. We'll now open it up for some questions and comments from our members of the committee, and I'll start to my right.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Very, very enlightening. Wanted to ask, not one of you talked about access to capital. And in my community, when we're talking to the business community, they say, we can't get loans. There's no access to capital, so we can't grow our businesses. Tell me why.
Ms. Brown, thank you for that question. You know, California has had this history and this habit, really, of top-down approaches. And as that relates to access to capital, it has consistently excluded small businesses, particularly those businesses owned by entrepreneurs of color and women. And consistently, the approach, and I'm just going to put it out there, consistently the approach can be likened unto putting deodorant only under one underarm. And the communities of color and low-income communities represent the untreated area. You know, in terms of access to capital, we recently saw the film industry receive, a sizable tax credit allocation to encourage investment and drive capital towards that industry. But then just yesterday or day before yesterday, we saw Oscar awards that nominated no African Americans, no Latinos, no Asians. And so we really need to look at access to capital and the tools. One of the tools, thanks to the leadership of you, Mr. Chairman, which, we are honored and still are honored to work with you on, is, moving a $200 million New Markets Tax Credit Program to encourage private investment in small businesses and in affordable housing, which we know, is a crisis in our state. But we can't get $200 million while at the same time we're looking at allocating $1 billion in our current budget discussions for tearing down a dam at the California-Oregon border for fish habitat protection. Well, maybe we can carve a little hole so the fish can swim through so that it will cost less than $100 billion. But one of the things we need to do, than $1 billion. But one of the things we certainly need to do is approach access to capital as an economic justice and social justice issue. We simply will not be able as a state to grow together unless we have those kinds of tools to drive access to capital.
Thank you for asking the question about access to capital, because it is a huge issue. And I think from our perspective, because we work more with practitioners and nonprofit lenders and kind of the alternative lenders in the state. In fact, we have our own revolving loan fund that was funded by the feds, and we almost act like a lender of last resort. You have to have a bank turndown letter before you can come to us. And I know there's several FDCs that are represented here as well. There are alternative lenders out there. There's also financing programs, and I think think part of the challenge is getting that word out to those businesses that don't know. We've worked with several banks in the past where we've gone out into the communities, identified communities that are at risk, try to reach those businesses in their languages, but also where they're at in their business and say, hey, this program's available to you. Oftentimes the challenge is they're not ready for capital. It could be that they need technical assistance. It could be that they need the help of an SBDC. And of course, the SBDCs, one of their key metrics is access to capital. So to be able to fund the SBDCs to continue that work, hold them accountable for what they're doing, and making sure that, that connection is being made for those businesses that aren't ready to get capital, I think that's important. But also I think the challenge is when you have smaller alternative lenders that are working to support these small businesses, they still need to make sure that they're, even if they're taking a higher risk, that they will get paid back, because at the end of the day, it's not a grant program, it's a revolving loan program. So there's challenges even in the alternative lending network to supporting some of these businesses. And I think that there's things that you can do. Again, the SBDCs is a simple one in my mind where you can really make a difference. So.
Yes, and my apologies for not mentioning that early on also, because the access to capital is critical. But it's having more and more programs isn't the way to go. It's having the technical assistance for those small businesses so that they know how to prepare to gain that access to capital. And there's many organizations and entities that are doing that now, whether it's the SBDCs or the ethnic chambers of commerce or the women's business centers, Cameo, so on and so forth. They're providing that already. In fact, a simple demonstration is that of the $2 million that was given to the SBDCs, $200 million came back in capital infusion. And so if we've seen the direct tie there, then the obvious the obvious opportunity to advance this program is providing more resources for that technical assistance.
Yeah, I just want to address that. I think that's a very good point, and I think we only had 3 minutes, that's why we didn't mention it. But I think we have to look at access to capital for who, and we have to look at several different categories. First of all, access to capital for our public agencies, our cities. And so you have to look at what's available statewide, federal. We work very closely with the Economic Development Administration. It's a very competitive process in order to put infrastructure. We have programs with the SBDC and the 504 lending program. In my office, we just incorporated a program through Action, which actually funds startup companies, which is really what the big challenge is. And then we have programs such as the iBank, and Gerbach didn't mention, but the California Enterprise Development Authority for doing bond financing. We work very close with new market tax credits and the USDA rural development. The thing, I think in the past, you'd go to the bank, you'd get a loan, you'd start a business. It's not that way anymore. It's really a capital stack. And it's looking at what those different opportunities are. We've incorporated the EB-5 program into our financing, new market tax credits, and we'll look at about 5 different programs. I want to bring up one other thing, access to capital in certain communities, and I just want to bring up one. The city of Calexico in the Imperial County just recently had, I lost count, but I think it's at least a half a dozen banks that closed. They have 2 banks left. And this is happening not only in California, or not only in Calexico, but across California and anywhere along the border with Mexico. And so this is something that, because of some new rules in the federal government, is not allowing these banks to be profitable. And so guess what? They're closing down. And it creates other challenges. A lot of areas have angel investors. We're getting devil investors. We're getting people that are coming in and taking advantage of the lack of the banking. You can imagine being on a community that's adjacent to Mexico that deals a lot with cash. A business owner has to daily take their money to a bank in a neighboring city, which creates a lot of other issues. And so we're afraid that the banks are going to be replaced by a lot of unscrupulous activities that could occur in those communities. That's a real challenge. It happened in Calexico first, it spread to San Diego, and now it's happening everywhere along the border.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Thank you all. I have got a couple questions, and I'd like to just kind of start with the first one is your organizations. If you can kind of give us a very candid and honest response about, how do you view our portfolio, our programs in economic development? How does your particular agency see this through your lenses? And, I think it's important to get a very candid, a response on that.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. I think the membership views much of the state programs as not for us, geared towards larger entities. And again, if there's no programs or assistance in place to help to get them there, becomes more difficult. We have seen improvement, though. I want to characterize that also. We have seen improvement from the economic development entity, GoBiz, as far as outreach into the local areas and more partnering that is beginning, but we just need to see more of that.
Yes, last year, the California Urban Partnership, we conducted an assessment of our partners' needs around the state, and consistently we found that many of them had no idea that GoBiz even existed. They had no idea that the linked learning program on workforce development in the state even existed. They had no idea that the California emissions greenhouse gas emissions reduction program even existed. They know nothing about the enhanced infrastructure financing districts. So increasingly, there again, we need to look at how we are doing, taking the top-down approach at developing our programs and look at what they're doing and for whom they are doing it. And one of the problems with the collection of programs that do exist at the state level is we have consistently fragmentation. So many of them don't talk with each other. They don't collaborate, and we certainly don't know what they do collectively or what their results, have been from a program evaluation standpoint. I think that that in terms of our portfolio, there is an incredible room for improvement. As far as GoBiz is concerned, I know that the mission is largely to be a lead entity in strategy development, but perhaps they should follow the community-based and grassroots stakeholders around the state.